call the meeting to order at 7:02. First up is acceptance of the secretary's report.
I move we accept it.
Okay, any discussion? This was the minutes that came in a separate email.
Yes.
Any discussion? Alright, we roll call vote. Susan?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Laura? Yes. I'm a yes. Okay, next up, acceptance of the monthly staff reports. Oh, wait. Motion to accept, I'm sorry. Second. Thank you. Alright, any discussion on the staff reports? Is this the new format?
No,
Okay.
it's pretty much the same as this.
I was gonna say, it looks the same.
It looks the
and
same.
A little truncated maybe. So the stairs,
Still waiting for the bricks at the top, but the stairs themselves are all set.
did they not, I walked by the other day, and there's a couple of steps where there's like a little chunk missing out of the corner of the edge of it or something. Did they just take them out and put the same steps back in?
Yes.
So some of them that are just, I mean, I know they're old pieces of
Yeah,
granite.
so it looks like one of them was chipped
Yes,
and
like
they,
right on the edge.
yeah, so they're gonna have to, we're gonna have to watch how that is, graded or whatever they call that.
Okay.
Pointed, we're gonna have to watch the pointing of that unless we get another piece, and I don't think we wanna do that.
Yeah, cause it was on like the front edge, so it
Yeah,
wouldn't be where you could do any of the painting.
yeah, they're not new though, and they've reinstalled the existing thing, so they,
What is the Aspen catalog?
oh, that's sort of what they call a skin that's gonna go over the existing catalog. So in July, it's turned out to be a little bit more work than they expected, but if you go into the catalog, it's evergreen and it's kind of utilitarian looking. Aspen is a skin that goes over that and it makes it look a little more modern and easier to use. And it's used in other consortia throughout Massachusetts. So our catalog will look similar to other catalogs. It's gonna be nice once it's done.
So I have a question about the technical services. It said you received a replacement alibi security video recorder from the town as a result of that cybersecurity audit. Is this something that's going in the library things like the hotspots, or is it something for the library to use?
It's part of the library's infrastructure.
There was a note here about buying more hotspots, wasn't there?
Yeah, technical services said for more, what happened to the library?
Are we replacing ones we had, or I thought we already had a bunch? Or
We
just-
had so many that we let a few go. These are replacing damaged ones.
So they're
So
possible,
it's the hardware.
but it's,
So
so
we-
we'll check them out.
Yes, and we have the same number that we had before. We watched to see if we need more, but
Yeah. I didn't know what the lifespan was.
we
on
seem
a
to be
hotspot.
okay. It depends on who's using it and how they're using it, and so we haven't had them long enough to know. But we have some that we've had before, when they first gave them to us during the pandemic. We still have those original ones, so that's 5 years, right?
It's pretty decent lifespan.
Yeah.
Because of technology.
Yeah, considering they're being circulated,
Mhm.
right, to different people.
Is there anything in here, I know last meeting I just mentioned you the anthills all over the place, and Pastor Jazz is starting up, do you know if anyone came in?
They didn't do anything,
Right.
anything about it, I think they just, it's not affecting the building at all, Dave worked on it.
Right.
They think that it will just take care of itself, it's the ant season. And they think it's probably taken care of itself by now. But they're watching it and the landscaping is gonna be done in July, so he knows to look forward to it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay,
Oh, I guess congratulations on the people with that.
yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, I'm thinking, which one is that? Yeah, I had a lot of universities this year.
Is that silver?
Hmm?
Is 25 silver?
Yeah, I guess it is, isn't it?
Sure, your gift is in the mail.
It's easy to remember because I came in 2000.
But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
nice round number.
So, yeah.
Anything else? Roll call vote, Susan,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Karen,
Yes.
Laura, yes. Alright, next up, public participation, I don't think we have anyone on that.
Doesn't look like it.
Correspondence, I don't think I saw any in the package.
I don't think there was any.
Committee reports, budget.
I just have a question about the format. This is the FY 25 operating budget status. Is this the full 12 months now? It is, okay.
That's everything. So the balance there is maybe $1,200 left over.
Yep.
And that will be fully expended by the end of the week. Yeah, so we've expended everything except personal services, which,
Some of these were right on the button. And this happened.
yes, several of them went over because we did the parking lot.
HVAC is clearly,
And that was a big one.
that was
Yeah.
planned. I don't have anything else on that, just to answer the question.
Was the, you said the HVAC people were out this week again,
Mhm.
is that that's gonna be part of this budget? Or are we gonna go
Probably
over?
not. They'll probably charge us in the next fiscal year. By the time they get out and do the work, it'll be July. If it's not and I get charged for it now, everything's expended, I would use state aid to pay that. And we're still not in bad shape because we have to keep in consideration that I spent $12,000 to do the parking lot. So I would still have that $12,000 if I didn't do the lot, right? And I could have done the lot with state aid, which is probably how it should have gone, except I wanted to make sure I used all the budget.
So what happened this week with the HVAC?
I'm not sure, but it has not worked well. So the second floor is a hot. And there's a restroom on the first floor that's hot. And Dave's been on the roof for 2 days. We know that it's not the chiller, it's a rooftop unit that's not circulating the air. So it's not coming down through that vent.
And is this one of the ones that's scheduled to be replacing the
No.
budget?
No, it's not a
So it's a
replacement
3-year-old one.
but it is one that we already did a repair on it. We did an $8,000 repair on it actually, because it was rusted through. And that is for heating, that's not the AC side of it. So this has something to do with coils that needed to be cleaned or something, and yeah, so.
Same thing in my house this morning, we're cleaning my coils.
Yeah, there's a lot of coil cleaning going on.
Yeah, apparently pollen builds up on them
That
and
was pollen.
you can't spray it off, they have to come do a special chemical and it foams it and it gets the pollen off anyway.
Mhm.
Probably the same thing.
There's no warranty that comes into play here on that one.
No, because it's about 30 years old.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, doesn't owe us anything really.
Right out of 30 years.
Do we have that in the,
Budget for this.
yeah, is that in the foreshadowing or?
That will go
plan
in
for
the
this?
next capital plan, yeah,
And we say,
yes.
you see, was it a chiller or an RTU?
It-
Rooftop unit?
It's the rooftop unit, yeah. So the reason we only did 2 also is because the 2 we're not doing are on an old roof. So we sort of would like to do the roof before we replace those units, but it depends on how things go.
We'll work with our capital planning friends.
Just check, we didn't have Adam come in, right? what it tells. I
Um,
just wanna make sure he wasn't like in a waiting room or something.
no, I didn't do the waiting room, so that he should turn up.
Just this, I thought Chris is not gonna make it, or he's still stuck in meetings, so.
Yeah, see, it's only us. There's no, I'm pretty sure that every time we've done this, it shows up over here. It will say number 2. You'll see somebody.
Right, building and grounds. I covered that just now.
Ants and stairs.
Do we have no estimate though on when they're gonna have the bricks? It's still just a week.
No, I thought they'd be by now, so I'm surprised that they're not here yet.
I didn't come in the front, is it level enough that it's not gonna be an issue for Jazz?
Oh, yeah, it's fine. You can, and even when they put them in, they're gonna put them in a little at a time, so the whole thing won't be closed off.
Oh, okay. Friends. So Jeff actually was the Friends person and sent me the notes
Yeah, they're
on
really
that. Said they,
Oh, you got them, okay.
so they elected a new board, they have a fully constituted executive committee, president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. The book sale made about 16,000, membership is back up to pre-pandemic levels, which is great. And they're working on several book giveaways, the farmer's market was 2 weeks ago, and then events for teachers and charities. So I'll be rude about that.
They say who's president?
It's
He
Karen
did-
again,
Oh,
It's who?
Karen.
Oh,
Karen Williams.
She's doing it again?
Yeah, I'm really grateful.
Yeah.
Because they're having trouble finding somebody, so if she does it another year, even she might find somebody who's willing after that 1 year. The thing about membership being back up to pre-pandemic levels, though, those weren't the good days. They still have low. It's still lower than at their peak.
Are they doing anything like membership guys?
They are doing all kinds of stuff. They have a committee that they've put together, so they've had some ideas. She wanted to put bookmarks out, and that was one of them. So hopefully I think membership is important because those are advocates.
Gift funds.
Nothing new about that. We got the statements, and I don't know how carefully you look at them, but the investments are doing pretty well. Every month I get them and I wonder like, ooh, is this gonna be?
Yeah,
One of the
especially in the
ones-
last 4 to 5 months.
It's been really volatile.
I've seen it seems to be holding basically
It's
steady.
holding steady, yeah, they're holding steady, so that's been good.
Next, sorry, scroll on down. Legislative advocacy. I saw that so that was a $4,000 grant from the
Institute Museum Library
yes,
Services.
that we were not
I know
expecting to get.
we're not gonna get that.
Okay. Because it looked like that was super important, something to put a pause on canceling their funding.
Yeah, but there's no staff. So they can say, there's no one to send the check.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the money's just sitting there in
So
libraries.
for us, it's, it's $4,000, but in other parts of the country, there are libraries that are closed. Rural libraries are closed because they don't have funding that they depended on. So I don't know what's gonna happen about that, but.
Anything else in legislative advocacy?
So I know that talked to one of Senator Jason Lewis's aides about the ebook legislation, but I don't know if I or email any of those.
Yeah, it's kind of a hold, I think, because they want to find, different states are doing it, and they wanna make sure they copy a state that's successful. So that's been a little bit on hold. Okay, I think what else is it, I think.
Personnel.
they had to update a valuation form, which was kind of surprised to me, because I know we didn't do it, and I was like, oh, you do that.
I'm just thinking if the group wants to set a date for when, I mean, you might wanna wait till September but I don't wanna take it off there and have you forget that you
So I
wanted
did look
to do it.
in, I did look into it, I just to tell you what I've already done, is, according to the Massachusetts Libraries, Board of Library Trust Commissioners, I looked into, you know, what the library trustees look for in a director and should evaluate. And all the things are, that, I can read them to you, library usage, statistics, etc., professional expertise on collections, policy recommendations, library operations updates, building issues, staffing and updates. So we do get all that information, so I think what we're evaluating is in the evaluation that we have. The thing that was different is that, so it's really about wording and understanding among all people, like what we mean by that, the different words. Because they did say some rating is what they recommend. So they have 4 different samples to look at. So my suggestion would be is to, in September, have the committee look at the 4 and pick and choose and like, you know, I think all of it, when I looked at them, all of our ideas there, maybe we just didn't word it right. And explain to everybody, or come to agreement of what each of those grading systems mean. So I think that that should be in September and that we could work through it and have it completed by December. Because it would come back to the committee. So if we started the whole committee, if we started with the subcommittee and kind of got a feeling for it and then had it agreed on and obviously added to it. There were 2 things different that they recommended. One was that it be a yearly evaluation, not every 3 years. So I don't think there's an issue with that. The other thing is that to have the library director in on choosing the kind of questions we ask and the kinds of, you know, make sure that everything's covered, because although we're looking at what you do, you know what you do. And I think that if it's okay with you and it's okay with the committee, maybe you want to be in those subcommittee meetings and you know, kind of give us a feel for, are we in the right direction with this?
So maybe you do one and then I join in the next one.
Yeah. And then I think eventually when we have what we, like the subcommittee and you agree on is the right thing, we bring it one time, send it to the whole committee, they can look at it, tweak it, take something out, have an explanation. That's kind of how I see the process, and I think it could be done from September to December. And everything really relies on the next thing you're talking about is goals. So, you know, I think maybe this last time, we really weren't goal oriented. I think we were trying to take too much information. I think anyone who did the survey was like too much information of the whole year. And
3 years.
Yeah, the 3
the whole
years.
3
that
years,
was
and not
my
everybody was
opinion,
there 3 years, you know, so, I think it was too big a pie. So if we do it yearly, I think it's gonna be easy. I think focusing on the goals, evaluating the goals, because all these things that we know we do, we get that information every month. So it's not the ideas that we weren't looking at, it's how to kind of zero in and focus on them. So that would be my suggestion, but I talked to any of the subcommittee about that. But I don't know what you think of that.
Yeah, I think that works, so you just want to do a meeting in September.
And I'm open to earlier if, depending on schedules and whatnot.
Right, I'm only away for only 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm here all of August and stuff, if we wanna get to, sorry, if we are going to decide to start doing it annually and we need to have it all finalized for January 1.
Yeah.
Then
It
we
might
may
be-
wanna be a little early.
And it might be too that you do it January 1 and then you decide whether or not it works. You know, I mean, this one's been in effect for 40 years and, everyone did it and said, I don't understand this. And part of, I think, what didn't work is that it was every 3 years.
Yeah.
Like you said, there are people on the committee that hadn't even been here for 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's a long time to have goals.
Right, I mean, best practice in HR is to do it every year. So I definitely support that. The other thing that I think we should do is also look at the job description, because just having browsed around the files that, I think the last time it was updated was probably when you were hired. And really job descriptions should also be reviewed pretty much annually, just to, see if there's anything new to be added, anything that should be dropped off, anything that needs to be reworded. So I feel like that could be part of our process as well, to look at the job description, the goals, and the review form, and just kind of holistically say, does it all tie together with where we want it to be, or, are there tweaks? And I love the fact that the Massachusetts Library Commission has all of these templates and examples from other towns that we can use to not reinvent the wheel.
I would say September, because I'm kind of out for July, people want to.
I'm out for July, but August come around, so.
So the only
Yeah,
thing
we're
is
not
you have
back
to post it. So you have to let us know when you wanna do it and we'll send
Yeah.
a posting to.
So what the question? Chris, what's the question? So does Catherine have goals currently for, like, if we do an annual evaluation, is it a fiscal year evaluation? What? Do you currently have goals? I mean, what goals, but like, do we have we,
I
like,
think so, yeah, at some point.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like in the timeline of this, since it's not every 3 years, if we do another evaluation in January, do we have to determine what the goals are? Sometimes.
So that's something you might wanna figure out when you are figuring out
Yeah.
the instrument, because I'm involved in this whole process with the executive director of Noble. And she has goals that we review maybe quarterly. I think we're looking at them quarterly. And sometimes, it's so frequent that sometimes it's, that's been moved off to the next thing, or
Yeah,
this has been changed. But it is more, we have a better idea of what's going on, because it's quarterly.
So what was the effective date of the last review? Was it April? Or was that just when it got?
Yeah, it had to be done between January and March. It was written in the
It was supposed to be
contract,
presented
yeah.
at the April, that's why we did it at the April meeting. That's when it's supposed to come to.
Right.
And part of it was, if we're all gonna kind of look at and decide how we want to and how we want to section it. Cause I think there's the general things, the everyday things, the things, every month things. And then maybe this is specifically the goals. So, not everything, I don't think, has to be rated, everything there was rated and then you could comment. So the questions were kind of so vague, and then the rating was vague, so you really didn't know how to rate. We're gonna decide on how concise we wanna be about that. So I think goals, one of the things is maybe you do wanna put on the agenda that every month, any discussion on my goals, any discussions on what we talked about. And have you update, well, we talked about partnerships, this is what's going on. I mean, that's something we could specifically ask for, or if she's in creating the evaluation, she may want to add that, so that at the end, there isn't a question, well, what do you mean by that?
Right.
So I think it's the communication, putting together the evaluation first, and then going through the year. With that, knowing that, I think it's kind of gonna be a little bit of an experimental year to see how we can work out the communication of what we want, what she wants us to have, and what she needs to do to make sure she's meeting what we think the goals are. Do you know what I mean? It's really all communication about the specific thing, because we get a lot of information. So that's not, I don't think that's ever in your tenure will be a problem for us, the information we get. But maybe conversation about it. Yeah,
Could be section of the director's report,
yeah,
update on goals,
progress.
So
Progress
we need
past
to
month.
both look at it, what's
Yeah.
gonna work for her to report things to us and what we're gonna look for without, you know, we don't wanna talk about have someone bring up the same thing, well, what about this, what about this? So I think we need to all be on the same page of here's the process and how are we gonna communicate what's going right, what's going wrong, how we wanna do that. I mean, there's so much that happens, there's only so much you can do in a meeting,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
sometimes things are, it's just
But I
one
certainly,
quick thing that says that.
personally, I don't wanna leave it to the end till like people like, well, I didn't understand that.
Right.
Cause we don't, whatever we can do to establish communication and all being on the same page, I think will go much smoothly from now to eternity.
Yeah, I think
Does it
January
matter?
will be a transition year, but like.
Yeah.
So I'll probably have some NAs or whatever, just because if it's something we just did 6 months earlier, 8 months earlier.
So if we do it with greater frequency, it would be less exhaustive too, right?
Yeah.
Quite a bit trimmed down, because I think,
It would probably be easier to do.
Yeah,
well, sure, yeah, because they keep coming, because the questions will come up more frequently. But some of them were, I can't think of any offhand, but it would seem to me that some of them were so backward looking that you don't have to hear it every, however.
I think some of them were also repetitive.
Yeah.
And so like people giving the same answers to different things, like, well, yeah, I still think this.
Yeah.
So maybe concise, maybe more divided into categories, even in the evaluation. There's so many options, but I think we don't also wanna beat a dead horse and say, you know, like, what's really gonna work? What's gonna work for you to keep going? What's gonna work for us to not wonder?
Right. It shouldn't be an ordeal, but the goals that we come up with should be at least smart goals, because, you know, your previous goals are focused on partnerships, I mean, it's so big.
Yeah, they're gonna be more concise.
So that's, yeah.
Sometimes the things are vague. We do a lot of, we work a lot in vagueness, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen and what the need is going to be. So the thing is that you're trying to reach the need. So the idea at the time that this was written, focusing on partnerships, was making an effort to get out into the community and making sure you were partnering wherever that was possible. So, you know, maybe it's replaced that, you're trying to get a seat at a table where people don't recognize the value you have to offer. So that was more, you know, to put it in 3 words doesn't really explain well what it was, but that sounds vaguer than it actually was.
Okay, it wasn't specific.
Yeah, but whether it was measurable and, you know, if we were doing this annually,
It's much easier to revisit it.
It's very easy to measure it, and it's easy to say, you know, when you're going back 3 years and saying, you know, I don't even remember what happened yesterday.
And it's easier to course correct, it's easier to.
Yeah.
You know, and if I'm remembering back 3 years, not to for this evaluation specifically for you specifically, but I'm going to remember the things 3 years ago that were the biggest impact, which may be the more negative things, as opposed to, you know, you're gonna remember negatives more than positives, I think, the farther back you go. So I wonder if it would change the overall.
Part of it's just expectation. Does everybody have the same expectation?
Right.
You know, I'm gonna work on, so so to your point, that focus on partnerships that are vague, and I'm killing myself on this partnership that I think is awesome. And then, you know, Chris says, I thought that a partnership meant, the business community. I didn't think that it meant the school department. I didn't, you know, so what was that, you know, were we not on the same page?
Right.
Or do we wanna be as
But-
specific as that? And we probably do.
And if we have, say, quarterly check-ins, even on the goals, it doesn't need to be every meeting, but if you just say a quarterly check-in, it could be a course correction right away, it could be that misunderstanding corrected earlier.
Exactly, and you'd be able to do that because you're not waiting 3 years.
Susan, on the templates that you saw on the NDLC website or the guidelines, I mean, did any of them have a recommendation or address having the director share some sort of self-evaluation?
It's definitely a self-evaluation.
Okay, because we don't currently have that, right, it's part of the process, unless the subcommittee sees that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the game review, I've done, it's included that.
Yeah, it's a useful thing to have in an evaluation.
And part of the self-evaluation is basically, it's almost like, running for office, well, this is kind of what I did. And like maybe over the year, a director wants to emphasize, where her time was most spent or whatever, or sum up how she thinks she's doing in general, and he or she, and specifically about the goals. I think, I say focus on the goals because I think that will help us
Yes.
understand the process of like, what we're looking at. Because we are still going to look at all the things that the evaluation talked about, appearance and communication
Sure.
and staff, so that we're still looking at those. But I think within those, some people wanted the specifics, and we never really had analyzed the specifics and talked about them. So I think it will be a lot like more concise, we'll all understand it. And then looking at goals, really feel good. We're not gonna talk about feeling not good, feeling good about what the library director, library accomplished in the year. So yes, self-evaluation.
It gives you an action point,
Yeah, I think that
as
makes a lot of
opposed to just
Yeah.
being judgmental. You
Right.
actually have, I mean, I think that's
I
how,
don't like that
I
color
think
pink,
that's
it's
how
really
it-
a lot of pink, it's like,
yeah, I think that's how everybody feels about it though. So it's, I think the action items would
And
be
even
helpful.
looking at the goals at the end, will be like, if she does a self-evaluation, you can see like, oh, it'll become even more clear whether you support that or whether we think she should have gone in a different direction. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's more information about that besides just all the information we already got.
well, it's also an opportunity, but like for, in this case, Catherine, to say like, okay, the goal of establishing 3 new partnerships wasn't met because some new unexpected crisis arose and that, all these things had to be redirected that way. It's also a good opportunity to kind of briefly share what,
Right, I mean, you could say at the end, this was the goal, and then you say, we found out it wasn't valuable.
yeah,
And that's really good information. I mean, it's all,
it's
let's
great.
face it, life is an experiment, ladies, so, I mean, expect the unexpected. So I think, I'm glad we looked at it, I'm glad we struggled this year so that we looked at it, and I think it will be, and it'll give the subcommittee the opportunity to meet many times again, so
Can't
miss that.
Alright, anything else on personnel?
Oh, I'm exhausted.
We're gonna roll right into director goals now. See in the packet.
So I did send a couple of things that I had thought of, and I don't know if you all thought of things as well. Megan asked me a question about an HR question, and I realized I don't have the definitive answer necessarily. So I think if we both did some professional development around HR, not so much, we have an HR department, so it's not necessarily the things that they can tell us, the routine things about forms and processes, what's FMLA, all those kinds of things we can get answers to. But I had found, for instance, I have a video on my computer that I look at from time to time, and it's about 3 minutes, and it's this guy named Jeff Hunter, and he's talking about the feedback loop. And I listen to that before I talk to somebody with feedback, because it focuses me. I tend to go off on tangents. And it's the idea of getting information about expectations. Why did this happen? This particular thing happened, why did it happen? Because I was expecting this and you were expecting that, and so this is how we have to do it the next time around. And that's been really useful, so I sent that to Megan. and she really liked it too. So I said, probably what we should do is find more things like that and do role playing or whatever that is. Because as I've mentioned before, I initially became the director working with a lot of people who had mentored me, and they all retired. And now I find myself with these people I just don't understand. We just don't communicate the same way, we don't have the same expectations, so I'm starting all over. And so Megan wants to do that too. So that was one of the things that I thought that we could do, is work on sort of how we develop staff and do HR types of things.
Do you find that Megan is a good bridge between you and
Oh
the
yeah.
ones that you don't understand?
Oh yeah, well, no, she doesn't, we all kind of just communicate a little differently. Like I realized recently, somebody sent something about the summer program, and I thought, this staff don't talk to one another about their successes like the other people would. Like Jeff would come into a meeting and he would say, you know what just happened? And he would tell you all these stories. Everyone waits for an agenda. They don't necessarily, and I gave a lunch and like nobody really talked about things like that. So you're not getting information that we used to get, you know, about how somebody would come to the desk and they had a terminal illness and they talked to Jeff about it. And he would say, this is what happened and that's how you learn. So the next time that happens, that's how people learn, and that the current staff, they don't communicate that the same way.
Do you think is there a online resource where the staff communicates with each other? I'm just thinking kind of a generational thing where some people might.
Yeah, but we don't even that way. It's just when we communicate, I think people are just talking about different things. And I'm left out of a lot of it, which is, I'm finding out that's just a director thing. The directors do get left out. They talk among themselves, and lots of people talk to Megan, she's easy to talk to. But I think the same thing happens with her, it's just that we're not getting, I don't know, it's just different.
So we're just making space for sort of almost storytelling about, you know, events that happen kind of, that people could learn from, that you could.
Yeah, we should
like,
probably,
formalize a little bit.
we should probably put it on the agenda, you know, I mean, part of what you get in the report is what happened at the desk this month, those kind of things. And part of the reason, that was Jackie's idea, and part of the reason she had that idea was so that we would find out these things. But I'm discovering that individual staff members maybe don't know all these things either. They're at different desks, so they work at different hours. They don't necessarily share all that information in the way that the old timers used to.
Maybe tell your rose, tell your thorn. For that meeting for the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just, you know, brag minute, okay, here's a minute at the meeting, everyone brag on, you know,
Yeah.
what did you do that was awesome, or what compliment did you get from a patron, or just something to open them up a little more.
Yeah, because there were all these little successes that I think they're not taking time to absorb. Should they, which probably would be helpful, you know, success breeds success, so.
Well, if people are busy, and also if the culture's not to share that sort of thing, to sort of need somebody to lead by example and say, oh, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Then you can be prompted
Yeah.
to promote their successes.
Right.
That's an agenda item,
Right.
promote your success.
Or maybe even like, Susan, at today's meeting, can you tell her what the story you told me on the way up the stairs kind of thing, you know, like for this, you almost need plans too to kind of get to this. But I mentioned the online option too, just because some people might be less comfortable sharing in, you know,
Right.
and
Some people
verbally
are,
than in writing.
some people are less comfortable sharing about themselves, but maybe if you ask them, you know, tell me something that one of your coworkers, right, you know,
Right.
let's call it the I Spy game or whatever, like I Spy Laura had a great interaction with so-and-so, and
Right,
it was really helpful, and blah, 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 like,
yes,
let them brag on each other.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, I love the idea of HR professional development, so if you want any
I wanna
ideas
apply.
to bounce off, you know, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
That's three possibilities of, you know, whether it's more legal or, compliance or what, sort of stuff, or communication, or, what sort of things you're looking for.
Yeah, I'll talk to Megan about that and then we can maybe come up with some things.
It's kind of sometimes a chat with you guys.
Yeah. And the other thing I came up with was development, meaning fundraising. To sort of replace the things that have, it's one of those things that's always sort of in the back of our minds anyway, but it seems now might be a time when it's a little more important than it's been before. So many things are changing in the economic environment.
People are still coming up to me asking me occasionally about blossoms, not so much why aren't we having it, but what's gonna replace it,
Right.
whether or not it be a library thing or something, people miss that
Yeah,
yearly party.
yeah, and we definitely wanna do it. The model that I've been looking at is, where you see, actually Library of Congress does it, but also museums do it, they have Friday night events. Sometimes they're short, they're not even long, so we could maybe do something like 4 times a year and do 4 different kinds of events. The thing is, I'd really like to do it with friends. So I need the friends to get settled and see who's on that board and how they're working, and then meet with them to see if they wanna put together an events committee.
All 4 Fridays.
For Fridays, yeah.
So I've been attending the new library trustee orientations online that Massachusetts Library Commission have been putting on. And in one of those, they're talking about committees and we just had a little chat going about, what committees do you have in these other libraries? And one of them did say they had a special events committee as well as disaster planning and a few other interesting ideas. But I don't know, I mean, how do we, if we want to try and support the Friends and support you, do we need to have a committee to do that or just all of us or how do we best?
I feel, and maybe it's just because I'm used to blossoms and how that was, I feel like the trustees should be aware but not necessarily frontline involved with it.
Right.
You know what I mean, like,
Yeah,
or, you know, if Friends has a committee, then maybe they want a trustee on their committee or something like that. Because it's
Yeah.
so many different,
it depends on what you're raising the funds for and whether or not you have a foundation or if you're raising, for your own, like what we have at First Financial. It depends, a lot of libraries are doing it because they're gonna do a building project, so they're doing big fundraising. When they do smaller fundraising, like annual fundraising, they tend to leave that to the Friends. But I think if we could come up with a model that is the Friends and the library working together, we would be able to do programming that suits the needs of the community and maybe different parts of the community. I met with Erin and Erin Kokeda and Jen, and we talked about Town Day. And Town Day is being managed by the Chamber of Commerce. So I talked to them about, who are the plays and where are they and what are they doing and what should I be doing, kind of thing. We talked about a lot of things and never really got an answer to that question yet. I still have to figure out what I'm doing. But those are the kinds of things that I think need to be explored. Where do we do, how do we do fundraising? Does it include Friends membership? I still think Friends everybody tells me they can't get more members. There's 12,000 households in Wakefield. There are 12,000 cards. We should be able to have 500 members. I don't think 500 is a,
No.
is a reach.
I think a lot of people just don't know.
No, they don't. I think that's part of it, and I think also people become members and don't know when to renew. Like they have this rolling renewal thing. And I think that sometimes,
Well, anytime you become a member of something, you want something in return,
yeah,
even though this is free, so what are you getting from a friend's membership except loyalty? You know, like, it's like any charity. And
right.
I don't think people give to charities the way they used to, in the last 5
No,
years.
they're definitely not.
So
So what if
what's the real
So
need
what if
for
you
it?
get a Friday night event that would be coming up?
Right, I mean, there has to, I mean, we did the same thing for Blossom. If you're gonna donate to us, you have to get some kind of, and you really don't from friends,
Right,
except that you want to see the library succeed, but unless you're gonna, you know, really dig deep, well, everything is free, so this is free, because it's a presentation, so, you know, you're not really, I don't think people really look behind the scenes. You know, like, well, how come that was offered? Who's paying for that? And then, you know, to know that,
To your point, you know, what is the Friends' benefit? And ensure that, you know, you need to see the successes somewhere. And, you know, Blossom's success was the event for the people who are contributing. People who are friends and friends members, what's your success? What did you work for? What's your result that's tangible or memorable, or there's gotta be something.
That's why I think it comes into play, like with the summer reading brochures, you know, it says sponsored by the Friends of the BB, or the Business Center has the plaque for sponsored by Friends. I think it becomes important to,
so that's a real altruistic thing though.
yeah,
If you were gonna get, we had talked about maybe doing a tour. I remember Jeff saying he would give, you know, if you become a Friends member, he would give you a behind the scenes tour. There are not too many behind the scenes actually, so what you see is what is here.
can you go on the roof?
You can go on the roof and go to the
Yeah,
treasure room.
Yeah.
We could go on.
Grand benefactors can go on the roof.
Yeah,
Because I know that the Friends said that they got some new members because people wanted to get into the preview night or preview day for the book sale.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
one thing that did said the membership a little bit, they had some.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Friends memberships to get into the book sale, sometimes they're for people who want to buy books and they're business people. And it's a good way for them to do it and it works, because those members are not advocates for us.
correct,
You know, I want the townspeople, I wanna be able to say we have 500 members, so when something happens, you can tell the town council, we have 500 people who put their money into this. And with that kind of support, so, and then you can communicate with them in different ways and everything, but, you know, you have to give them something that's fun, that's what people want, you know, and people want different things. We've done tea parties before that people love, the Friends did them, and they were really, really good. There was a woman who had, who did, costume design, and she had a mannequin of like Jane Austen garments and what they wore at that time period. And it was fascinating. The underwear was fascinating because you know, who knew? I don't know.
That's Elizabeth Boyd.
So
Fascinating everywhere from that era.
yeah. So you know, different events for different people too, for different populations. To do smaller events, we would be able to do that.
And like for a year, I mean, you hit the bar dress up crowd, hit the tea party crowd, hit the book reading crowd, and
Yeah.
whatever other crowd there is.
Were you thinking that music Friends membership would be prerequisite for those Friday night events?
Not necessarily for all of them, but we might be able to do, I I mean, it would be something, I haven't given it a lot of thought, it needs a team of people to think it through.
Sponsors, anything, if it is something that, you know, some kind of event, if you're a member, it's X amount of dollars, if you're not a member, it's X amount of dollars.
Right, that's
So, like,
that's another way to do it too.
Go one event and you make the minimum $10.
Yeah, yeah.
How does the merchandise go here? I mean, you saw a cup or a jar of honey, is that?
The honey really goes,
It does.
people buy the honey,
So,
but right now, we're having trouble keeping it stocked.
yeah, but I mean, if that could be more institutionalized, perhaps that's an idea as well. Because right now, it's quite informal. You're standing at the counter down there and you see something
Well,
you like.
Yeah, it's because the library is not supposed to be selling anything.
Yeah,
We don't wanna institutionalize that because we're not selling it, the Friends are. And the Friends are, they're a separate organization.
we couldn't give them a booth down there.
We could, but they'd have to
Staff.
staff it.
Right.
So they go to like Festival by the Lake and they do all that, they staff different events. And they occasionally will be at the library, but they pretty much just leave stuff at the desk and we sell it. Cause
Which is not
Because
something we
people
do.
aren't, because people aren't around is the way that they used to be.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of merchandise you can pass on. People, you know, baseball caps, umbrellas.
They've done that in the past, they've done
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
umbrella bags and
We
umbrellas
still
and
have like
blankets
two
and-
umbrellas and the logo is old, it was like, I think I bought several of them just trying to get rid of
But I, bottom line is that they still, they're convinced that they're gonna still have the books there. So, I don't think that, you know, they're real, I don't think they're at the mental place that they're saying, oh, we need to look for some other things to,
No, because they're still talking about
this, yes, they kind of convinced it.
Maybe that's one of the 4 Friday nights.
Yeah.
Friday night, you know, the everyday book sale from one night only,
Is that
it's
what
like
the
takes
book-
over the lobby and.
I went to the book sale, so I said, oh, so this is kind of the last one, and they're giving this up, and she said, well, no, the town needs to help us. The town needs to help us. So this, they need, you know, acceptance is the first step.
They're still at denial.
Acceptance is the
Yeah.
first step.
It's because I don't even say the town needs to help us.
No, I accept
And
that.
and
Yeah.
and sometimes they do. You know, we're part of the
And I've had this
we're a town
conversation
department.
with the same people that are saying that. Cause it's not,
Yeah,
you know, it doesn't mean that it's not valuable, it's not in their jurisdiction, it's a separate entity.
yeah.
And that building was scary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just getting in,
I know.
it's great, but a little scary.
Was this all still part of director goals?
Is this what?
Was this all still part of director goals?
It is, because I don't know if you have any more goals.
So are you focused on partnerships, these 3 are still there? Is what you're
No,
saying?
those
Oh,
were
those
done. And so those were from the last 3 years. And what I have to say about all 3 of them is that they're all now part of standard operating procedures. It's all, everything we do, we're looking for a partner. And in fact, this morning I won an award for partnership. And couldn't go to the ceremony because I was worried about Dave on the roof and not having AC and being the cooling center. So I didn't go, but the health department nominated us because we do all kinds of work with Wave and Wake Up and that. So I'll have more information when I get it, what it was directly about. But that's all partnership things. And those partnerships go way back. We were founding members of most of those organizations. And then evaluating trends, that's what I live for. I'm always trying to, you know, I don't wanna be on the bleeding edge, but I wanna be on the cutting edge. And if ongoing building needs, whether I wanna do that or not, that's become,
Building is calling out to you.
yeah, that's just become a thing. We're gonna have to do that. So, and all of these things are kind of blending. Next week, I'm doing a podcast with Kate Lippert-Garabedian and Linda Gardner, who's the director at Melrose. She's gonna do it with me. We're gonna talk to you, and so it will be about buildings. Because our state reps got the money to do the stairs, and Melrose has a new building, so we'll talk about all that.
To send us that podcast interview. Will you send the podcast link to us, please?
I'm sorry, what?
Will you send the podcast link to us?
Oh, sure. Yeah, she has, I'll send it.
I know we're not doing Facebook anymore, will it, do we still have Instagram? Or did the library
We
cut
do,
off?
but we probably won't for long, and I probably wouldn't put that there. Yeah, we'll have another conversation another time about Facebook and everything, but I have discovered that that was a very good decision. It's a place more people I think are gonna start leaving. It's not working out for lots of people.
I'm still on it, Facebook for life.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
well, you know, it's great to, you know, I have 30 friends from college, and it's great for that. My husband just found somebody, and I didn't know he was on social media, because I said, that's not a good place for you. But he was, he found a high school friend. So, you know, great guy that we had kind of lost track of. So it's got really good reasons to do it, but those don't apply to institutions quite the same way. It doesn't work quite the same way.
I mean, you have the Wakefield community groups, there's several of them that have quite lovely discussions. Some of them, absolutely, but some of it's like quite useful stuff to find out about things that are going on in town, so I don't know, I find it useful for that.
Yeah, so what I think about that is that it's exclusionary, that information. You have to be on social media and you have to give all your information in order to be on social media to a company who has no regard for what they're gonna do with that information and what you're gonna, you may or may not have access to your photos, depending on how Mark Zuckerberg woke up in the morning. And because not everyone's on it, that's not the place where I wanna communicate for the library, because we are a library, we have a website. So I'm looking for another place to do that and to direct people to another place.
Right, it's, but it's
Where it can
very
be
good,
moderated.
the traffic, you know, from the community to that, so where else do you get the community online, I suppose? You know, there's next door, but that's, I don't know if anyone else has used it, that doesn't seem to be as accessible as Facebook, so Instagram just doesn't seem to, I don't know, it seems to be mostly pictures or reels or
That's the
stories.
point.
Yeah, but I don't know, it doesn't have the same community group feel, so I don't know
Yeah.
where else online you do get the community group feel.
Well, some people do get it on Instagram because that's why we still have it. And there are people who have children in school who swear by Instagram and that school departments use it. That is because there's less chatter and more direct, you
I
just
mean, you can, on
sending
Instagram, you
information
can
out.
just post that this event is happening.
Yeah.
Or the the March calendar is out, and that's it, there is no discussion. I mean, it's not this, it's
Yeah, you
really
can
not the same,
turn off commenting.
Yeah.
and you might,
So part of what we looked at was the audience on these sites. And it's not our patron base, it's not the whole patron base, it's not even discrete groups of patron base. And we cannot get messages to the people we wanna get it to, because we tried. We've done all kinds of experiments. It's designed to be like a cocktail hour. It's not really designed for an institution to send out messages on, because everyone just doesn't get them, they don't see them.
so it is the base for institution.
It's
what is, like, there used to be the newspaper, it used to be
Right.
the item, so
Right.
that's,
I think it's your website.
but you have to get people.
To
You have to get
So
people
this
used
is
to
why-
going to the website.
So, yeah, so a lot of what's happened is that we do, I go to all these focus groups and everything, and what the refrain from everyone is, I didn't know that, I didn't get that information, I didn't know, because they want it sent to them. And when you send it through social media, the timing's important, the algorithm matters, so you don't even know that people are getting it.
Right.
There's no consistent way to get the information. So if I'm just not using that channel and say, if you want to know about the library, sooner or later, people will get the message. If they wanna know about the town, if they wanna know about the library, you go to the town website or the library website. If you wanna know about a restaurant's hours, you go to the website or you Google
Yeah, I go to
it.
their Facebook.
So
Yeah, I get it, because
Yeah,
that's
but
what's
if
happening.
there is-
on our website.
But if there isn't a
the
Facebook
point,
page.
I guess the baseline point on access is, how do you get information to people who don't wanna know?
Right,
And if they don't wanna know,
I didn't even wanna know, yeah.
Or not even don't wanna know, but
That's
don't even know that there's something to know.
Right.
If you're not, if you don't
Right.
know about library
Yeah.
legacy and your history, or, you know, what I mean, like, you're not gonna even think that the library is a place, that there's something that might be there for you.
there's a consultant I have been listening to, and the new thing, she has said across the country, strategic plans are going back to basics, which is exactly what ours was doing, because there's so many new people in the field. And the second thing she said was, stop chasing the non-users. Just, you're spending a lot of energy chasing non-users, they've already decided they don't need you. So put all your effort to the people who do, because there's millions of them. So focus on that.
And when you go to the town website, you can, isn't there a thing for the library that you go right to it? So maybe that's a partnership, you and the town, you can say like, how do we,
That's
how
what
do
we're
we all
doing.
get it?
Yeah,
so
that's what we're doing,
that's
we give
good.
all kinds of stuff to her and so a lot of library information goes out on like, the town sends it on their emails.
I get that from my town updates, I get, across the board, you can virtually sign up for any committee in town to get their, regular update.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
But they also all have social media pages. So like, I don't get,
I don't know how.
we just do it differently, so I,
But they-
I
that
get
might-
my town
that might not always be the case.
no, it may not.
Because everyone has access to that and not everyone wants to.
But it's
Right.
one of multiple channels, so if you prefer the newsletter, if you prefer to go right to the website, I prefer the social media channels. So I get, I follow the town of Wakefield, I follow the WCAT, I follow Wakefield Youth Council, like all these different town boards, committees, whatever, on Instagram, I follow them on Facebook. So I get all my updates that way, as opposed to me going and searching.
I think that the challenge, but one of the reasons, the libraries should move away from Facebook is that even if you put all this stuff out there, you have no control over who sees it or when they see it. So you're actively following this place, and you're probably just checking the library page or or something, or maybe you're getting, or maybe you're not, maybe you're not.
When they don't check the page, it's not going to.
The algorithm is not designed for.
Not necessarily, but like I don't go to the Wakefield Youth Council page, and yet I get every one of their Instagram updates.
Are you sure you get everyone?
No, but I mean, I guess I can look on their page now and see if I've seen them all.
Yes, so we check, that's what we did, we checked
Right.
that, and we sent stuff out, and we looked at people who follow the page and who liked the page, and we tracked what we could, and people were not getting the information.
But if.
It's an
They were the
algorithm
point, but
thing.
yeah, I understand it's not
Unless you're
everything and not
getting
everyone gets
something
it.
fairly consistently,
Right, but if you send it
You're
out
paying.
and 25% of the people get it, that's better than not sending out and nobody getting it.
but again,
Well,
back to service, the clients and customers that you've had relationships with in the past, because that's where your activity comes from to benefit your product. You know, whenever your target market, so why target market to people that don't care? You know, you've got 100,000 people who follow the library. Service those. Don't chase the 900,000 who don't have any interest or haven't looked at the library or haven't been anywhere around it, because your fundraising, all your stuff's gonna come from the people who are involved in your product.
Yeah, no, I just think it's a personal preference of how you follow,
Yeah.
you know, like my 16-year-old follows the library, or you did follow the library, I guess, on social media, but isn't signed up for like newsletters. And that's how you would know about things, I don't know.
So there aren't newsletters for teens either.
Well, I get like the
We don't-
room buzz.
Yeah, that's really made for adults, for.
Right, but I'm saying like maybe it's each generation, whatever, there's, people have different ways that they get their information, and not everybody wants to go seek it out. Some people, even if it's only going to a third of the people that you want it to go to, are still preferring it comes that way.
So the other part of the calculation is, you have staff and staff have so many obligations. Who's gonna do social media?
What's the return on that?
So I have a niece who did social media as a job.
Yeah.
And that it was her first job, and then she moved on to do other things, but that's somebody's full-time job. And if you wanna have good content, it's hard to have good content in multiple places. So we're focusing.
So I guess you would envision a staff person whose job is to be the social media creator. And what's it cost to hire one of those? And how much information are they gonna distribute, and what's the return?
Yeah, it's the return that
That's troubling.
investigating the return was troubling. And it has not, so remember we did the summer with no social media. That did not make a single bit of difference to any of our statistics. Whether or not people were coming in or seeing displays, or no matter what we did on social media, it gave us likes and engagements, but it's not even conversations, because there's nobody sitting at that to have a conversation. So you post something, I'm the only one who at home sees on my phone, I get this little thing, that somebody asks a question about the post. There's no one to answer that question. And 9 times out of 10, I'm seeing it, I'm gonna answer it, and I don't know the answer. Because so there were lots of reasons to just try to find another way to do it. And there isn't any one thing that works. We sent a postcard to every home in Wakefield, and there were all kinds of people who said they never got a postcard, they never saw it. It probably just went out with, it came with all those little supplements.
Cause I don't recall seeing a postcard.
You what?
I don't recall seeing a postcard.
Oh, like 3 or 4 times we've sent postcards to every house in Wakefield. We did it during this pandemic, we did it for the anniversary.
I got one for the anniversary.
We did it for just Join in Wakefield, the volunteer thing, that went up then. I think we did it one other time. Yeah. And even those tunnels. Social media wasn't even on the agenda, but that's.
I know, I was gonna, well,
Put it under new business.
15 minutes ago, I was gonna say, why don't we put this on September's?
And I'll tell you more about it, we'll talk.
Yeah, I think it comes down to just a very strong difference of opinion, and.
Oh, no, because there's all kinds of, it's not just like, oh, my opinion, and we really spent 3 years of researching and studying it and finding cost benefit. So I'll show you some of that stuff because it's interesting.
All right, moving on. Updates, changes to the monthly reports.
I just want to know if anybody has anything they want to change. One idea I had was to take all of the data points, those little, so people write and say, they have charts about the programming. I could put that on a separate page and put it all together, and I could maybe even compare it to the prior year. I don't know how valuable that is, but
I don't need it personally, but
I had made a point of this, I guess earlier, about a suggestion for the budget numbers anyway, just expand that. And I probably have to have a conversation with you directly about who it is that puts these together and what the data source is for it. Do you do this yourself?
yeah, it's from, yeah, so I put that chart together, and it's based on the bills that are paid by Stephanie, who's our,
Okay. So you don't have like an accountant that's in the background doing this stuff?
an accountant,
Yeah,
is that what you said, an accountant?
accountant.
A town accountant. So we pay the bills ourselves through Munis. It's a, the whole town uses Munis, so that's their computer system. So Stephanie, I look at the bills, I approve them, I say where I'm gonna pay them from. Stephanie does the manual payment part. It goes to accounting reviews it.
Okay.
So if I've tried to buy something out of an account that I can't, they'll kick it back and say you can't do that. And then we track the numbers, multiple places. So Munis tracks the numbers, and I also put them into QuickBooks.
Okay.
And I have sub-accounts in QuickBooks, so I know,
What I'd like to do is sometime this summer, I'll think about it first, and talk to you about, you and anybody else that you want to involve, about a format expansion of this. Just a budget page for now, and then the other ones later. And it would involve the budget subcommittee, which means I have to call a meeting and all that stuff, so we'll do that. But,
so tell me, at the time too, when you're thinking about it, tell me what the goal is, like, what is it that you need to see that you're not seeing now?
Right.
So, because I know what I have,
Yeah.
you know what you want, and
Right.
between the two of us, we'll be able to figure out.
It's not a big change in this, okay, there's a lot here. But, what I can do is, the way I can communicate it to you is just by building a spreadsheet. Okay, just a simple expansion of this. And, show it to you and see how it
Okay.
works out, okay? And then we have to get the budget committee involved, I suppose.
Well, we could meet first.
I think that's right, because otherwise we're gonna have to put it in the paper.
Yeah, and it's not worth it, and
Right.
nobody in town has
Okay.
input into that,
So-
we're not voting on anything or
Yeah,
anything.
give me a few weeks or a month, and I'll
Okay,
come
sure.
back to you. Good.
Okay,
Kevin, in terms of those program numbers, I don't know that we need to see them compared to the previous year. But it would be nice to have some, I don't know, I think it would be interesting to have some things that we see year over year, like
Some trends.
just like, and I know there are variables and there's so many other things that impact this, but just kind of like just having a sense of numbers, even like how you just mentioned earlier, there's 12,000 households and 12,000 cardholders, just.
it would probably be useful for me, and from time to time I've done it, like in January or the end of a calendar year or the end of a fiscal year, give you a snapshot of some of our measures of use that we track, that we have multiple years of those things. So we can look at how, like I've done it before with circulation, so you could see the growth in e-books use, that, how did that change over time? Something that shows a little bit more over time.
Yeah, so you
Is
see for a
helpful.
trend or.
Right. Yeah, that would be helpful, to get a sense of.
Or like even the library of things, I have no sense of, and we don't need to be in the weeds of like, how many times do people check out the hotspot, but just, it'd be interesting to know like what are people using and what do we not have, or
So there might be something we can put together for the circulation report that has, and the new person, Miriam, had stopped doing it because we didn't know exactly what we wanted. So it might be that there's some circulation data that might be useful to have there.
Like with the library of things, for instance, just the, what were the top 5 things checked out this month? Is it always, hotspots? Is it always the temperature gauge thingy? What is the thermometer?
Never gone up.
Binoculars and field guides, what's popular, what's trending?
Somebody just moved and I said to them, hey, you could do a radon, test in
Yeah.
the library. He's like, oh, I didn't know that.
Well, my husband went to the Home Depot and bought like instant thermometers because our freezer is, refrigerator freezer has been a little off this week. And now that I'm saying this, I'm thinking, wow, good, I'm pretty sure the library of things has one.
If it's small, we have it.
Okay.
The one thing I would say, like, definitely keep a little circulation data down for stuff. I think that having those like stories, this like, it's helpful for me to like if I'm in a situation where I'm talking to someone and I mention them in the trustee, and oh, what's happening at the library? But I know we talk about here, but sometimes it's like the people with a little more impact, it's like those stories stick with me more.
It helps me feel like I get to know the staff better too, because there's been so much turnover in the last 5 years that, when I look around downstairs, I feel like I only know a smaller percentage each time I get in. But sometimes those little snippets of stories at least kind of give you a close of like personalities and names and stuff.
I guess looking at the circulation services piece of the report compared to some of the other ones, it doesn't really have any numbers of like even just how many folks were checked out in the last month. So maybe just a little bit more numbers might be useful, but
Going back to the bragging on themselves thing, do you do any kind of like a play of the month type recognition?
No.
Or just like a staff highlight of the month or anything? Not obviously necessarily for us, although but if you did, then that would be nice for us to know.
Yeah, I think, that has changed over time, and it changes with personalities too, like whether or not they have staff parties at holiday time. It's different with different staff.
Yeah.
How that works, so those are the kinds of things I'd like to explore,
Yeah,
because I
don't
don't
know,
really know.
MVP on bulletin board in this
Yeah.
staff room, or
And I don't really know how
some sort of recognition if they're having trouble recognizing themselves. Maybe we can help
And
recognize them.
I'm not sure that they are having trouble recognizing themselves so much as they seem to be missing an opportunity to like just all enjoy the moment together and learn from it in a way that seems to come organically with the different staff, and then among this staff it's a little more all business almost.
Is that something the trustees or somebody, friends could promote into the staff to enjoy some of those moments or find a way to recognize or literally let them enjoy the moments that they don't understand they need to enjoy?
Yeah.
Build a little
So
camaraderie.
making sure that it gets into the reports is probably important. For a lot of years, the Friends had an annual lunch for the staff.
And it's funny, because that was one of my notes for
Yeah.
friends for things to do when we were just sitting here. Maybe there should be some kind of friends, staff recognition or a little get to know kind of thing.
I would love to do a trustees staff,
Well,
friends, that would be an event.
Do you want to see my note?
I know
I feel like the last time I got together with the staff was at somebody's retirement party years ago.
I know that the staff is interested in knowing who the trustees are, that more people have said that. Because they like the idea, the youth room loves to come up and present their summer program because they see the faces and they know, and I've thought before, are there other programs other people could come and do that. So maybe we do have some kind of a social or something.
Yeah, like summer barbecue or.
Yeah, like I don't wanna make it.
There's one of your 4 events.
Right, you know, feel obligated to.
Make the friends spend some money, there's one of your 4 events, make the friends spend some money, and do that.
They happily do that.
Trustee, staff, friends, cocktail hour.
Yeah, because the friends were really happy when I went to the meeting, just because I wanted to get to know them a little better and see what they did, and also have a preview for what might happen when I go to the meetings.
Maybe we can do it on a harbor cruise, and then we can.
Like at holiday travel, every year we rent out cravings, basically, right before they open. And all of our sales reps come, we do it as an annual thank you to our sales reps. But it's popular, everyone seems to love to come to it every year, and it's a nice way to sort of socialize.
business.
Yeah, and support the local business, and we all leave with a pint of ice cream to go, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So there's always the schedule, that's an issue too. Not everybody's here at the same time.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying, I don't want it to be
So
something where like
sometimes-
people feel obligated to come in on their day off, or.
And if you pick one of the last Sundays of the summer when you're still closed, then it would be working, I guess.
And that, I'll talk to people about that.
No, I'm just like totally optional, I mean.
Right.
Or if they can think of something they would like to do that would work.
I mean, just thinking, by the way, you know, this catering, time for next week, I mean, it's so easy for them, whether it's
Right, collection development, policy review.
So this policy is the same as it's been, and we just decided at some point that it would be reviewed every year. And the reason I put it in here, and I wanted to review it every year, is because it is the trustee's responsibility. The collection is the trustee's responsibility. Currently, collections are under threat, various places. There's a lot of banning going on, a lot of complaining about materials, and none of that happens in Wakefield. And in the years I've been here, I can think of 3 complaints, and they were all resolved face to face with a conversation. And everybody was happy. So, you know, that doesn't mean that you don't have to be prepared. And what I decided might be a good thing to do, we've had a procedure for years that we follow, to how we manage, a statement of concern about materials. And I changed the procedure to a policy so that you're aware of it and you voted on it as a policy. So it's just 5 steps of what happens if someone has a complaint, and it's that, you know, we do readers advisory, we offer the statement of concern, form, if they wanna do that, if it goes as far as a form. The form would come to me, I'd make an appointment to discuss it. If that wasn't good enough, we'd go to number 4, I'd put a committee together and we would discuss it with the committee, and then the committee would make a decision, and I'd bring that decision back to the patron. And if the patron still wasn't satisfied, they could bring it to the trustees, and the trustees would talk about it.
Who would be on the committee that you would appoint? That was one thing I wasn't very clear of, what if you.
The staff committee, it would be people who had some knowledge of the material and why it was purchased, or why it was, if it was a display, why it was done that way. So the one time that happened to me, it was a DVD that I personally found offensive. And the person who said, did you see this? Do you know anything about this? And then when I looked it up, I was like, wow, no wonder. And the person who had bought it, I said, how did this get collected? And he said there were holes for it. And it's gone out this many times, and this many libraries have it, and it's on this list of campy things. And we had all these points as to why it had been purchased, so when I told the patron that, I said, you don't like it, I don't like it, but there's all these people who really wanna see it. And the patron was fine with that, because there was a method to the madness. It wasn't just that somebody here was being, picking this thing that might irritate people. We have had people stop and say that, I have to use the restroom and I see a graphic novel there and it's graphic and, I don't like that. And so it's very easy to move that book someplace else. Whether or not it's offensive doesn't even matter, if that's bothering you, okay, we'll just, we try to be as accommodating as possible. So when it comes to, so I want you to vote on the policy, to do that policy, and part and parcel with that policy is the statement of concern itself. And that's been the same statement for as long as I've been here.
1997.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I think Sharon wrote it. And what I like about the statement is that people have to actually have looked at the material and articulated what the problem is with it. Because sometimes if you do that, it helps you think through the process of this particular problem. Now, what I've added to this, which has been recommended by the state, is for the statement to be considered. The person who complains has to put their name, and they have to be a resident of Wakefield and have a library card. And they have to complete the form in full. So you can't be from Stoneham and say, or whatever you wanna say in one line. It has to be a legitimate thing that can be reviewed by a committee. If you want us to take something seriously, you have to seriously request. So that's the theory behind
So
that.
one of the things in their application was just that, actually was talking about this, and they said that in other areas they've had people copy and pasting, sort of complaints from private organizations. And they said what they try and do to get around that is say, put it in your own words, so it can't just be a copy and paste of a generic thing. So I don't know if we wanted to include that in the, please specify your objections to this material in your own words,
I think
that
that
particular-
I think the fact that it's a Wakefield resident with a library card is gonna limit, if a lot of library patrons copy and pasted the same thing, it would be the same material, so we'd only have to evaluate it once. So I don't think that there would be a problem with it.
Cause you see that a lot, like in politics, if I send something to Senator Lewis, because, whatever group said, oh, write this to your local senators. And he responded back to me and said, oh, I'm not gonna consider that, cause I'd like to do that in your own words. And I said, really? Like you got the gist of, so I don't know that they necessarily, there's some people who want if it was something that were like, the entire whatever ABC group of Wakefield decided that this 1, 2, 3 vote was offensive, then.
I have a question on the statement of concern, that page, the 5 steps. I don't have a general problem with any of that, except wondering if step 4 is necessary. You explained that it brings in a committee of people that may be involved in having acquired the material or something like that. Can that be sort of collapsed into the third one? I mean, I'm just looking for a way to
Well,
make
the
this
way,
less of a ceremony.
the way that it happens in real life is that and it's only happened a couple of times, but someone will be at the desk and their head will be ready to explode about something. And the person at the desk will say, well, I'll find something else for you, and they don't want that, they're very upset about this. And so they'll call me or the assistant director. And usually face to face, you can explain. You can say, do you really want to, you don't like that author because you don't like that author personally, but we can't look at every author's personal life. Sometimes authors' personal lives will become, will be in the media or something, and people will decide they're awful people, so you shouldn't buy their books. Well, you can't make that judgment about everyone, so when you're talking about it, then people say, oh yeah, and sometimes they just want you to hear them. So in the event that that's not enough, I would then say, okay, I don't know enough about this, let me say it's a youth group thing. I'm not a children's librarian, I don't know enough about this. Let me talk with the staff who were involved,
Right.
and I'll get back to you.
So this committee is not just a group of citizens or someone, a group
Oh,
of
no,
citizens.
No, it's,
People involved in it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's another person or a group of individuals to review the question material, but they're librarians.
So maybe that.
I could change
maybe
the
wording
word.
should just be.
I could change the word, appoints a librarian or a group of librarians to change individual to librarian,
I get it now,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, the same sort of like,
Yeah.
who are these people and we
Right.
just bang them off the street because.
Yeah, I mean, my objective would be to get the trustees involved as soon as possible, but that's not.
Oh, you don't want that.
No, that's not what, last line of
Yeah,
defense,
you
I
wanna
think.
be the last
I want to
resort,
get these people.
because then you'll have to meet, then you end up meeting with people and, you have to all get on the same page first, and
I see,
it's,
okay,
yeah, it could be a lot. And I think a lot of what's happening now is that there are people who are just trying to take a stand on another matter and are using this as an excuse to wreak havoc, and it can waste a lot of time.
yeah.
So this will not waste time, I think.
So do you need a motion?
Yeah. To approve it as a policy,
Okay.
The change of the word.
with the change
Yeah.
of individuals and librarians.
Okay, I move we accept, that we approve actually, there's 3 policies here.
It-
So
It's
the
just
Just the last one?
It's
Okay.
just the one policy, yeah.
I move we approve the statement of concern about material drafts
Policy, right.
policy.
With the one change of adding.
Yes, with the changes, not for the wording change, number 4 we just discussed.
For a second.
Second.
Susan,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Karen, yes. Laura, Chris,
Yes.
yes. Passes unanimously. Items not reasonably anticipated by the vice chair. Anybody got anything else? Nope. Okay, motion to adjourn? Anyone?
Do we want to talk about dates for the subcommittee or is that gonna be a separate?
That'll be separate, yeah. Cause we want
Just send it out.
yeah, it'll just go be emailed in for us. Anything else? Motion,
Okay,
motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Anyone?
Yes.
Seconded?
second.
Okay. We're adjourned.